right, let's try something. Cast your mind back to a specific event, maybe something recent,
Uh-huh.
like uh, dinner last night, maybe, or coffee with a friend. Just take a second.
Yep, got one.
Try and really, recall the details.
Yeah.
Who were you with? Where exactly were you sitting?
Hmm.
Any little things, sights, smells, stray thoughts. Maybe you showed up late or, I don't know, got hummus on your pants.
Huh? Hopefully not the hummus, but yes, I can picture it.
Right. So we rely on these memories, obviously, for sharing stories, learning stuff, but also for something really fundamental like our sense of who we are, our identity.
Absolutely. Our whole personal history is built on them.
But here's the big question we're digging into today. How much of that memory you just recalled is actually truly accurate?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it even mean if parts of it aren't?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, isn't it? Because our belief in our own memory accuracy and, in other people's memories too, it underpins so much. Well, our sense of self, like you said, our social connections, how we trust each other, even things like the legal system rely heavily on eyewitness accounts.
Right. Testimony.
Exactly. And the common idea, I think, is that memory works like a video camera. Just, hit play and it's all there, perfectly recorded.
Yeah. That's what it feels like sometimes.
But the science,
Yeah.
it paints a much more complex picture than that. It's not really a recording device.
Okay, that's a crucial difference then. Because if our memories aren't perfect recordings, what does that imply? What are the consequences?
Well, that's what we want to explore.
So for this deep dive, we've pulled together two pretty different perspectives on how reliable memory actually is.
Right. Two angles on it.
One source really explores how memory can be surprisingly, well, changeable, malleable, prone to errors, even when we don't realize it's happening.
Kind of the memory's tricky view.
Exactly. But then there's this other newer perspective based on recent research that actually suggests maybe our real-world memories are far more accurate than many scientists previously believed. A more optimistic take, perhaps?
Interesting contrast.
So our mission today is to kind of unpack both of these viewpoints, look at the nuances, the details, and figure out what this all means for understanding our own minds, our own personal histories.
Sounds good. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with that first idea that memories aren't these fixed, solid things we might think. Imagine that game, telephone, or some people call it Chinese whispers.
Yeah, definitely. Where the message gets totally mangled by the end.
Right. You whisper something, it goes down the line, and it comes out completely different.
Well, that's actually a pretty good analogy for how memories can sometimes change over time.
How so?
Each time we recall something, like passing on that whispered message, little bits might get, subtly misremembered or maybe slightly misunderstood, or we might even innocently tweak them a bit.
Tweak them, like embellish.
Sometimes, yeah. Or maybe it's influenced by what we wish happened or what someone else told us about the event. These tiny little errors or shifts they can build up.
And they actually affect the memory itself for next time.
That's the idea. They can have long-term effects on how you'll recall that same event in the future. It's more of a dynamic reconstructive process, not just pulling a file out of a cabinet.
So it's not a perfect rerun. It's more like an active retelling each time.
Precisely.
And there's this specific phenomenon called the audience tuning effect.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that when we tell a memory to different people, we might adjust it for them.
Right. Tailor the story.
Yeah, but the crazy part is, it's not just the story that changes, but maybe the memory itself actually shifts. How does that work?
It's really fascinating. It taps into how we use what you might call artistic license when telling stories. Maybe you exaggerate a little to get a laugh.
Sure, we all do that.
Or perhaps you subtly shift the emphasis to align with what you think your listener believes, their attitude, maybe even their politics. Research suggests this isn't always a conscious choice to, deceive. It might be more subconscious. Your brain is trying to build social connection, create coherence, so it subtly reshapes the memory trace itself to fit the audience.
Wow. So you're literally changing your past to fit the present conversation.
In a small way, potentially, yes.
They did a study on this, didn't they? The one with the bar fight. Sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a key one. So participants watched a video of a bar fight, two guys, pretty intoxicated, standard stuff.
Okay.
Afterwards, they split the participants up. Some were told a stranger they were about to talk to liked one of the fighters. Others were told the stranger disliked that same fighter.
Ah, setting up a bias.
Exactly. And no surprise, this totally shaped how they described the fight to the stranger. If they thought the stranger disliked the guy, their description of his actions was much more negative.
Makes sense. You tune your story to your audience.
But here's the really interesting part, the kicker. Later on, when these same participants were asked to recall the fight again, but this time neutrally, just accurately. Yeah.
Their accounts still reflected the bias of that first audience they spoke to. Even trying to be objective, their memory seemed to have absorbed that initial slant.
Whoa. So the story they told kind of became their memory.
To an extent, yes. It really highlights how memory can change, almost spontaneously, just based on how and when and why we retrieve it.
Yeah.
The line between the narrative we create and the actual recollection gets blurry.
Telling the story can literally rewrite your history in your own head.
It seems that way sometimes.
And, okay, it gets even weirder, or maybe more complex, with something called retrieval-enhanced suggestibility. You mentioned earlier that just retrieving a memory can make it temporarily fragile, susceptible to change.
That's right. Malleable.
That feels counterintuitive, though. Doesn't practice usually make perfect? Like, rehearsing should solidify a memory, shouldn't it?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But retrieving a memory, according to this idea, it's a bit like taking ice cream out of the freezer.
Yeah, okay.
You leave it out in the sun for a bit, gets soft, pliable.
Right. By the time it goes back in the freezer, it might be a little misshapen, right? Especially if someone, poked it or meddled with it while it was soft.
Ah, I see the analogy. The retrieval makes it soft and vulnerable.
Exactly. This is often linked to a concept called memory reconsolidation. When you pull up a memory, it becomes unstable for a short period, like that melted ice cream. And it's during that window, it can be modified before it gets stored again, potentially in a slightly altered form.
So it's not just that we think we remember it differently. The actual memory trace in the brain might be getting updated.
That's the theory, yeah. It's an active biological process.
Wow. Okay, they tested this too, right? With a film.
They did. Participants watched a short film. Then, a few days later, about half of them took a practice memory test about the film, just recalling details.
Okay, the practice group.
Then, all the participants were given a written description of the film to read. But here's the twist. The description contained some deliberately false details, things that didn't happen in the movie.
Sneaky. So they're planting misinformation.
Precisely. The goal was to see if people would incorporate those false details into their own memory when tested later.
And what happened? Did the practice test help protect against the misinformation?
That's what you might expect, but no. The fascinating finding was that the group who took the practice memory test before reading the false description, they were more likely to reproduce that false information in the final memory test compared to the group who didn't take the practice tests.
Get out. So practice actually made them more susceptible.
In this specific context, yes. Practice made imperfect. It suggests that the very act of retrieving the memory, rehearsing it, temporarily opened it up, making it more vulnerable to absorbing that external misleading information.
So the more you access a memory, the more chances it has to get subtly reshaped by stuff around you.
That seems to be the implication of this line of research, yes.
Okay, so if we pause here and take stock, this initial picture is pretty unsettling. It suggests remembering isn't just accessing data, it's more like storytelling.
That's a good way to put it, an act of storytelling.
And our memories might only be as reliable as the last story we told ourselves or told someone else. It definitely makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of my own treasured memories, the ones that feel so real, subtly changed over the years without me even knowing?
It's a question worth pondering. How much of my past is truly my past, as it originally happened?
Right. Okay, but now let's flip the script a bit.
Okay.
Because there's another side to this. While everything we've just talked about highlights how memories can change, how they're malleable, the dominant view among many scientists, for quite a while actually, has been even more pessimistic. Basically, that our personal memories are just generally unreliable, highly error-prone, not really trustworthy.
Yes, that has been a very influential perspective in memory science, the idea that memory is fundamentally flawed.
And where did that view mostly come from?
Well, a lot of it stems from those laboratory studies you mentioned earlier. Studies specifically designed often to find and measure errors. They often use pretty artificial materials. Learning lists of unrelated words, looking at random pictures, watching very short, maybe confusing video clips, and then testing recall minutes later.
Right, not exactly like remembering your wedding day or a childhood holiday.
Exactly. These lab settings are great for isolating specific memory mechanisms like interference or suggestibility. but they don't necessarily capture the richness and complexity of memory in our actual real-world lives, where experiences unfold over time and have personal meaning.
That seems like a really important point. If the tests are artificial, maybe the conclusions about everyday memory are, well, a bit skewed.
That's the argument some researchers are making now.
So this newer study we looked at tried to challenge that prevailing pessimistic view. It basically asked, okay, forget the word lists for a second. How often do memory errors actually happen in real-life situations?
Right. Trying to get a more ecologically valid measure.
And the headline finding from this study seems to be that memory, well, okay, it's still not a perfect video recording.
Definitely not.
It's actually much more accurate for real-world stuff than many scientists had previously assumed.
Yeah, that was the surprising outcome. It addressed this gap by using what they called staged events.
Staged events, what does that mean? Like actors?
Not quite like a play, more like experiences that were real and immersive for the participants, but were also carefully controlled and documented by the researchers.
Ah, so they knew exactly what really happened, the ground truth.
Precisely, which is the big challenge with studying personal memories usually, right? You can't verify them perfectly.
So what kind of staged events did they use? How did they make them feel real but stay controlled?
They had two main ones described. One was a mandatory respiratory mask fitting procedure for hospital employees. This was pre-COVID, importantly.
Okay, so just a routine work thing for them.
Exactly. It felt real, mundane even, but the researchers knew every step involved. The other event was an audio-guided art tour, which was specifically designed for the experiment. Again, immersive, lasted a while, but totally scripted.
Clever. So people just live through these things, and
Then, after different delays ranging from just 2 days up to 2 years later, the participants were asked to freely recall the event. Just describe what happened, any details they remembered.
and the researchers compare these descriptions to the actual event logs.
Exactly. They meticulously broke down the recall into specific, verifiable details. Things like actions performed, perception,